Whether it's outdoor, indoor, semi-professional, or even developmental leagues, there's been more than 50 football leagues that have tried to compete with the NFL over the last 100 years. They've all failed. But Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson and his business partner Danny Garcia and Redbird Capital purchased the XFL, Vince McMahon's XFL, for $15 million out of bankruptcy court last year. And now they want to compete with the NFL. And I actually think there's probably a decent chance that they'll be able to do it. But before we get to why, let's first cover some background on the XFL in general. The XFL kicked off its first season in 2001 as a joint venture between the World Wrestling Federation's Vince McMahon and NBC's Dick Ebersol. NBC teamed up with Vince McMahon because the network had just lost their right to broadcast NFL games. And the two set out with one simple goal: to make football more entertaining and compete with the NFL. It actually started out pretty well. They introduced a bunch of gimmicks and entertaining things, like names on the back of the jersey and in-game skits. Viewership was high at first, but the gimmicks wore off and eventually it nosedived. The league shut down after 1 year, and they lost $35 million in total. But 2 decades later, Vince McMahon wanted to give it another shot. So he sold 4% of the WWE, about $200 million of his stock, and relaunched the XFL in 2020. The XFL's second attempt went much better. McMahon publicly committed $500 million to the XFL. He hired former NFL and NCAA executive Oliver Luck to be his commissioner, and they signed blue-chip sponsorship deals with Gatorade, Anheuser-Busch, and others. The quality of play wasn't bad, and the TV ratings for the XFL were actually quite good. The league was averaging about 1.5 million to 3 million viewers per game through the first 5 weeks of the season. But then COVID-19 came, and they were bleeding millions of dollars of cash per month without players playing the games. So they fired all their employees within a month and filed for Chapter 11 bankruptcy. All in, Vince McMahon lost another $200 million on this reboot of the XFL. But this brings us to the third iteration of the XFL. Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson, his longtime business partner Danny Garcia, and Redbird Capital called the XFL just hours before it was set to be auctioned in bankruptcy court and offered them $15 million for the business. The deal went through. They've been quiet over the last few months, but now they put their foot on the gas and a lot of things are happening. The XFL has hired high-ranking executives, including former NFL and NBA decision makers, as well as Dan Blandino, the NFL's former vice president of officiating and Fox Sports' rules analyst. The league's new season is just 9 months away, and it also inked a partnership with the NFL that will see the XFL test out research and development initiatives like new rules and equipment. But the biggest news came this week when the XFL announced that they've signed an exclusive multi-year broadcasting agreement with ESPN, where all 43 of their games will be broadcast on networks like ABC, ESPN, and FX in millions of households throughout the United States. That's huge for an upstart league like the XFL. So some of you may be asking though, why would ESPN do this? Well, the reality is they probably didn't pay a dime for the media rights. They'll be able to sell inventory across the assets, and now they have a direct competitor for the USFL on Fox. Oh yeah, and Dwayne Johnson's also the highest paid actor in the world. I'm sure Disney doesn't want to mess up that relationship. All signs point to a strong start for the XFL's third attempt, but the work is far from over. Building a large professional sports league at scale is not an easy task. There's a reason why more than 50 entrepreneurs have tried over the last 100 years and failed. But ultimately, if anyone is up for the task, I think it's Dwayne Johnson, Danny Garcia, and Redbird Capital. Dwayne Johnson and Danny Garcia have built an incredible business for himself. He's one of the largest personalities in the world. And when you add in incredible investors that they have at Redbird Capital, things start to get interesting. So we'll see what happens. But I certainly wouldn't bet against them.